Hey there, this is Natalie, and I feel like it's time for another smooth late night radio DJ voice video, which I haven't done since my theory video about whether Subaru is the Archbishop of Pride, because the summer nights are long and hot, especially if you're waiting for the next sweet episode of ReZero. Yes, season 2 of ReZero is now underway, and you can check out my reviews of the first episode on this channel if you're interested. There are 2 versions, one for all you beautiful anime-only fans out there, and one for the smart-ass novel readers like me who already know what's going to happen, or people who want spoilers. I thought it would be interesting tonight to recap what happened in Season 1, as far as the characters other than our super smooth hero Subaru are aware. That is, what they know happened in the loops that stuck. There are a lot of characters and a lot of memorable interactions in Season 1 of ReZero, but due to the time loop mechanics of Return by Death, it can be hard to keep track of whether some of the less major scenes actually happened, as far as the people involved in them are concerned, at the point in the story where we are now. Did Priscilla ever ask Subaru to kiss her feet? Did Ram hear the cool late night story of the red and blue Oni? Did Felt's house in the slums get wrecked? And did Roswell ever take a bath with Subaru? While it's easy enough to keep track of the big things, like we can't help but know that Rem and Betelgeuse's game of Twister is something remembered only by Subaru, and that Puck has never ended the world to his own knowledge, it can be tricky to remember which of the smaller moments are canon to the people who aren't Natsuki Subaru. This video won't contain any spoilers outside of spoiling basically everything in Season 1, but because I finally can, I'm going to allude to events in the excellent first episode of Season 2 as well, so this video is nice and safe and laid back for anime-only fans, as long as you're all caught up with the show. If you're watching this further into the future and more episodes have aired, that's all good too. Nothing discussed in this video will change because it's all Season 1 stuff, though I'll probably make a similar video about Arc 4 once Season 2 is over. So let's start with Arc 1. Here our key characters to think about are the thugs in the alley, and yes, they are worth remembering because they do appear again in Arc 3. The smooth team of Emilia and Puck, Felt and Rom, Reinhard, and Elsa. I don't think it's worth worrying about the Appa guy and his family or any of the slum dwellers. That's probably more detail than we need tonight. Now, the easiest to deal with here is Reinhard, because he only appears in the loop that sticks, so all of his scenes are canon for him. He meets Subaru while he's being attacked by the thugs. He joins the fight in the loot house when it's already started after Felt ran out. He defeats Elsa. Then he realises the insignia has recognised Felt as a candidate for the election and leaves with her. Reinhard is so agitated here because Felt is someone he's been looking for a long time, and so after these events he becomes her knight, and we see him again in Arc 3 about a month later. Elsa is also pretty easy, because the loop that sticks is the only one where she doesn't kill everyone. From her perspective, she came up against opposition too strong for her and retreated, though the job she was hired to do wasn't finished. So as she withdraws, she basically says that this isn't over, by way of telling everyone to look after their bowels. Now we come to the trickier ones, people who interact with Subaru in different ways in each loop. The thugs will only remember the time that Reinhard appeared, because Subaru called for help. They haven't interacted with Emilia and Puck at all, and Subaru has only, in their eyes, ever taken the route of calling the guards, so to them he's maybe cowardly, maybe a snitch, but definitely a law-abiding guy. Felt will remember Subaru seeking her out in the slums, and insisting that his cool flip phone was a Meteor that he already knew was worth more than her existing buyer, that's Elsa, could bid. But she was suspicious of him and made him go to the loot house for Rom's appraisal anyway. The fight broke out, Emilia and Puck appeared, and Subaru ordered Felt to run away. Rom was injured in the fight, and Felt didn't know what had happened to him until he appears in Arc 3 to try to take her back. From Rom's perspective, he never met Subaru that time without Felt there, when they talked and he ate all of Subaru's corn potage snacks. Both he and Subaru died in that loop. And now we come to Emilia and Puck. Naturally, being part of our super smooth cast of main characters, they're the ones Subaru interacted with the most in the loops that were cancelled. But actually, they only meet Subaru at all in the loop that sticks when they show up at the loot house where the fight is already happening. This means none of their conversations happened at all from their perspective. While it doesn't come up due to it being in the heat of battle, when Subaru calls out to Puck to do his thing in the last loop's fight with Elsa, Subaru shouldn't know anything about Puck at all. He also hasn't had Emilia tell him about her half-elf status and why it's a problem, revealed to her that he didn't know who the jealous witch was, seen her talk to minor spirits, found out about Puck's sleep schedule, or of course, had her lie about her name. An interesting fact about all this is that while he was originally planning to write the story of ReZero, Tappei didn't plan for Arc 2 to be there. He added it in because he felt that without an arc that followed Subaru and Emilia and allowed them to spend some time together, her fight with him in Arc 3 wouldn't have had the right impact. He also used the chance to have Subaru learn more about the world he was in, set up how mysterious Roswaal can be, and of course, really give some characterization for some of the best loved, super smooth characters in the series, Rem, Ram, and Beatrice. In terms of the story, this was definitely the right choice, though it did leave a lot of people feeling like the first and second halves of ReZero Season 1 were very different, where Arcs 1 and 2 are really a kind of prologue, and the bigger plot elements with the royal selection and the witch cult only really start in earnest in Arc 3. Some people were expecting the tone of the loot house and mansion arcs, with Subaru basically using his return by death to solve mysteries, to be what the whole series would stay with, though hopefully they came to enjoy the fact there's a much bigger story going on here than just that. Still, when you think about Emilia's perspective, where she only really meets Subaru properly at the very end of Arc 1, it's really clear that Arc 2 was needed to make her disappointment in him in Arc 3 work. If the scene of him claiming to be her knight in Arc 3 had happened with someone she'd barely spoken to, she'd have more realistically just written him off as some random crazy madman, rather than reacted the way she did. So, we move to Arc 2. The last loop here is the one that starts when Subaru commits suicide, where Beatrice was willing to stop Ram, who believes him to be responsible for Rem's death due to the curse, from killing him. This means that Subaru doesn't actually die at all in a loop where the cause of the curse is discovered and they fight the witch beasts. I know in some translations they're called Mabeasts, but I think Mabeast sounds weird to say, so I'm going with witch beasts. This means that from the perspective of the villagers, Rem, Ram, Beatrice, Emilia, and so on, what happened was this. Subaru became a butler, figured out there was something cursing people. He then went and befriended everyone in the village with Rem, ensuring he'd get cursed by touching everyone. He wasn't distrusted as the person causing the curse by the maids, and he saved the village children. Then Roswaal returned from a trip and saved the day at the critical moment by killing the witch beast with fire magic. This is something notable because he only took the trip in this loop, something Subaru notices has never happened before in any of the loops where he died, either from the curse, from Rem killing him, or from suicide. Roswaal's return here can seem like a deus ex machina, or perhaps like Roswaal was irresponsible not to have come back sooner, given he can fly and whatnot. But Roswaal's actions in this arc are intentionally left mysterious, and that's all I'm going to say about them in this super smooth spoiler-free video. Now, this arc during the period where Subaru is at the mansion before getting cursed is probably the hardest one to determine which interactions happened in the canon loop, because there are some things, like some of Subaru's chats with Puck, or some of the conversations with Rem and Ram, that may have happened more than once, including in the final loop, and just not been shown, given there's no need to see them twice if there was little or no important variation. But in the canon loop, Subaru becomes a butler rather than a free guest. He does get Emilia to promise to go on a date with him, which we can still see him harping on about in the Memory Snow OVA, which happens before Arc 3. He does learn Shamak, which he damages his gate using in the fight with the witch beasts. He does start learning to read the local language, and he does get people doing mild cardio. So these interactions at least are the ones that happened from everyone else's perspective. Now, the perspective of the villagers is an interesting one to consider at this point in time, for reasons I can actually talk about at last now. Everyone who's watching the anime knows what happened to Rem near the end of Arc 3. Right now, at the end of Arc 2, all of the villagers and kids think Subaru and Rem saved them, and that it was Subaru and Rem who were there being friendly to everyone the day Subaru got cursed. Now, we don't know this when we next see Subaru interact with the villagers when he's trying to get them to evacuate in Arc 3. But in both the loop where Subaru fails because Beetlejuice takes over his body, and the loop where everything succeeds, Rem has already been eaten by gluttony. We know this because of the blank letter that Emilia receives. In the first loop, Emilia takes the letter as an insult from Crush's faction, and it causes Ram to think Subaru has switched allegiances, before Subaru makes sure this is cleared up in the final loop of the season, even though he doesn't know why the letter was blank. Our poor tragic Rem wrote the letter, you see, and so it became blank when Leibat and Kaitos ate her, with those scenes from Season 2, Episode 1, where she and Crush fought gluttony and greed happening somewhere between them all splitting up after the white whale fight and Subaru's group reaching Roswell's domain. This means that the perspective of the villagers at the end of Arc 2 about what happened with the witch beasts actually changes in Arc 3, with them thinking that it was Subaru alone that they'd befriended and who'd saved their kids. This is possibly why the children love Subaru so much, and actually, in other interactions with the villagers, it becomes clear to Subaru that they now think he was a much bigger hero to them than he was, where Rem's deeds have been attributed to him after she was forgotten. But that thought's a bit of a downer, listeners, so let's move on to the carnival of cheerful memories that was Arc 3. In Arc 3, things go on a fair bit longer before a death loop starts than before, something that allows for quite a lot of developments to happen that stick for everyone, even if it does mean that all of those embarrassing moments Subaru has, including being beaten up by Julius and his argument with Emilia, will be remembered by everybody, with no chance of a redo. In fact, Subaru's first save point in this loop is right after Emilia leaves, so all of the stuff that happens before that, including him being told to stay with Crush so Felix can heal his gate, him meeting Priscilla and Al and gate-crashing the court as part of Priscilla's entourage, and all of his scenes with Rem and Emilia, is canon. The next phase of the arc, well, it's basically Subaru meeting a number of grisly ends while he finds out about the witch cult attack on the mansion and the white whale. None of this stuff sticks. The final attempt in this phase sees Subaru trying to enlist the help of Crush, who refuses him, Anastasia, who basically sets him up, and Priscilla, who mocks him. But he does learn some useful things about the needs of Anastasia and Crush's factions that lead to his success in enlisting them later. However, in this loop, nothing works out and Subaru dies, with things getting reset once more. It is at this point that things start to get to be canon for other people again. Episode 18, the iconic episode where Rem makes her speech and inspires Subaru to keep going, and all of the negotiations the second time around with Anastasia, Crush, and the members of their factions does persist. This is because even though Subaru does die again before the arc finishes, the save point moves to after the fight with the white whale, so everything between Rem's speech and the white whale being defeated sticks. In this canon timeline, Otto has been captured by the witch cult and is rescued by Ricardo before being brought to Subaru. This becomes the canon for how Otto and Subaru first met from Otto's perspective, even though it happened differently in some earlier loops. This isn't really a spoiler given you see this event in season 1, but Otto recalls the situation he was in before his rescue later in the novels, and it wasn't good, listeners. The Otto of this timeline has definitely been through some stuff the other Ottos Subaru met in previous loops hadn't, and is extremely grateful for being rescued. So this is the point where the new phase starts that will not remain canon, because despite the progress his team, which includes Julius and Felix, are able to make, they are eventually prevented from fully defeating Betelgeuse and evacuating the villagers, mainly because Subaru is possessed by Betelgeuse, and as a result has to ask Julius to kill him. Several other things had gone less than perfectly here too, which Subaru has a chance to rectify in the redo. For instance, that whole business I've already mentioned with the blank letter. The final chunk of stuff that persists then is the very final loop of season 1, which from everybody else's perspective is what happened right after the white whale fight. It seems like everything goes to plan here, with the villagers and Emilia persuaded to evacuate, and Betelgeuse and his fingers defeated. Then, however, there's the reveal that there's a bomb in the carriage carrying Emilia and the village kids, so Subaru and Otto make a mad dash to reach them, with Otto using his divine protection that allows him to talk to animals to find the fastest route. On the way, they're chased by Betelgeuse, who's somehow still clinging to life, and Subaru defeats him once and for all. Subaru reaches Emilia in time, the bomb goes off safely, and then we get a nice happy ending where Subaru gets a lap pillow, and all is well. Except it isn't, of course. This part of season 1 is overlapping with the start of season 2, and so while we didn't know it when we were watching the first season, Rem has already been eaten by gluttony, Krush has lost her memory, and a bunch of other people from Krush's faction have been killed by greed. What's important here, looking at the things that remain canon for everybody else though, is that Subaru's save point is going to change, making the last save point after the white whale fight forever lost, and all of this stuff, the successes we see in the final episode of season 1, and the tragedies we see in the first episode of season 2, permanent for everyone. So, there you have it, the first 3 arcs of ReZero, and what actually happened as far as all of the people around Subaru know. We still don't really know whether Subaru's returned by death rewinds time, or simply moves Subaru to another dimension, leaving the world where he died to continue to play out without him. And so yes, it's possible that there are other versions of all of the different characters out there who do remember some of the interactions lost to failed time loops. But on Subaru's route through this story, this is what the people around him know and remember. I hope you found this an interesting look back at the events of the first 3 arcs, and of course, I hope you're feeling nice and relaxed out there on this smooth summer night. I'll be back with my usual voice again for reviews of episode 2 later this week, so until then, take it easy and let's keep the hype strong for the peak fiction that is ReZero. If you want more ReZero stuff to watch right now, check out the rest of the videos on my channel, and don't forget to like, comment or subscribe. I haven't been at this long, and so I really need your super cool support. Thanks for watching, and I really hope to see you again very soon.